for the current device screen resolution. That's the whole at 2x and at 3x stuff. We load the correct knows to look inside your asset catalog. When we use image view, SwiftUI knows to look inside your asset catalog to find the artwork inside there. It even automatically adjusts it so it loads the correct picture for the current device screen resolution. That's the whole at 2x and at 3x stuff we looked at earlier. For other types of data like text file, we need more work on our behalf. This applies even if you have a specific format like a XML or a JSON file. It takes the same work regardless of what you're trying to load. Now, when Xcode builds our whole iOS app into a finished thing, it creates what's called a bundle. This happens on all Apple's platforms, including macOS. It allows the system to place all the files for a single app in one position. That means the binary code, the actual compiled Swift code we wrote, plus all the artwork and any extra files we want, all in one single folder. .app has a name. In the future, as your skills grow, you'll actually learn how you can include multiple bundles in a single app. So it allows you to write things like Siri extensions or iMessage apps or widgets and so much more, all inside a single iOS app bundle that comes from the App Store. Now, although these all get included in our App Store download, that single bundle, these other bundles are actually stored separately from our main app bundle, which is the main iOS app and its resources, just put together in one big directory. Now, all this matters, right? It matters because it's common to want to look in a bundle for a particular file you know you placed there. This uses a data type called URL, which stores exactly what you might expect. It might store www.hackingwithswift.com, for example, a web URL. However, URLs are much more powerful than just storing web addresses. They also store the locations of files, for example, which is why they're useful here. Let's start writing some code in our content view. If you want to read the URL for a particular file in our app bundle, we want to use the method bundle bundle.main.url. If the file exists, it'll be sent back to us. Here you go, here's the URL for that file. Otherwise, we get back nil. So we'll get an optional URL back. So in our content view here, we're going to write func test bundles. And then we'll say if let file URL is bundle.main.url for resource with extension. That one there. So we're looking for, I'll just use some file, for example, extension txt. So try and find some file txt, some file.txt in our app bundle. And if that succeeds, then we found the file in our bundle. Now really, what's inside this URL does not matter. iOS uses paths that are impossible to guess. Our app lives in its own self-contained sandbox. Don't try and read files out of it. That's your little bit of work there. Once we have this URL though, we can load it into a string by using a special initializer, string contents of. We give this thing any file URL, and it'll send back a string containing the contents of that file if it can be loaded. If it can't be loaded, it will throw an error. So you've got to handle this with either try or try question mark correctly. So I'll say something like if let file contents equals try question mark string contents of that file URL. If we're here, then we found the file in our bundle correctly. Throw an error. So you've got to handle this with either try or try question mark contents of that file. We give this thing any file URL initializer, string, have it try and read files out of it. That's your little bit of work there. Once we have this URL though, we can load it into a string by using a special initializer, string contents of. We give this thing any file URL, and it'll send back a string containing the contents of that file if it can be loaded. If it can't be loaded, it will throw an error. So you've got to handle this with either try or try question mark correctly. So I'll say something like if let file contents equals try question mark string contents of that file URL. If we're here, then we found the file in our bundle and we loaded the file into a string. And once you have that file content string, you can do whatever you want with it. It's just a string.
Welcome back everyone. As always, I'm Nick. This is Swiftful Thinking, and in this video we're going to look at haptics. And haptics is just a very fancy word for vibrations, because in iOS applications, when a user clicks something or gets an error message, you can add vibrations to the device. This is not technically a SwiftUI component, it's really just a Swift component, but I wanted to walk you guys through it, of course, because vibrations or haptics are very common and it adds a really nice user experience to your application with just a couple extra lines of code. So in this quick video, we're just going to very quickly look at some of the different default vibrations that we can add to our application. So overall, the code for this is very simple. This video should be pretty short, but I do need to note that to test the vibrations, you're going to need to run the app on an actual device, because if you run it on a simulator, obviously you won't be able to feel the vibration. All right, so I'm back in our Xcode project as always. This is going to be another really quick video. And before we begin where we covered adding, I want to quickly point out that in the last video we did the sounds bootcamp where we covered adding sounds into our project, and in that we added our first singleton, which I have right here, and we're going to add another singleton in this video. In the last video, which I'll link below, I discussed what exactly a singleton is in detail. I'm not going to do it again, so you can go watch that one if you're confused with this line of logic. If not, let's go ahead and get started by right-clicking on the navigator, creating a new file. Boot inside, click resume on the class. So let's create a class. Let's call this haptic manager, and let's open the brackets. In this class, we'll create a static let instance equals haptic manager, and we'll initialize it here. This is our singleton. And very simply, and we're going to create two very simple functions in this manager. The first one, let's call func notification. Open. Close parentheses, open the brackets. And the second one we'll call func impact. Opening close parentheses, open the brackets. And we're separating this into two different functions because the built-in haptics are actually separated this way. So in the first notification, let's say let generator equals, and I'm going to start typing notification generator, and it's called the UI notification feedback generator. And we will initialize one, and then we will call generator dot, and notification occurred is the function to actually make the phone vibrate when this gets called. So I'm going to click enter here, and this expects a type, and that needs to be a UI notification generator dot feedback type. So I'm going to hit enter on that. I'm just going to actually cut that. I'm going to pass that into our function. So I'll say type of type UI notification generator feedback dot feedback type. Then I'll take our type and then just pass that in here. Okay, and then secondly, we're going to say let generator equals UI impact feedback generator. Then we'll open the parentheses here, and then there is a style. This style needs to be of type UI impact generator dot feedback style. So I'm going to hit enter and just cut this, and I'm going to pass this in here. We'll say style, and we'll pass in the UI impact generator dot feedback style. And we'll take our parameter of style and just pass it into this function. And then we just need to call generator.impact occurred, and that will make this vibration happen. So in your actual app, you could kind of combine these two if you want to make your own custom enum to include all of the feedback types and feedback styles, but we're just going to separate it out for now. And that's pretty much all the code we need to get vibrations or haptics working in our app. So let's just run through all of these test cases now, and in our view, let's just create a very simple VStack, spacing of maybe 20, open the brackets, and we're just going to create very simple buttons here. I will open the parentheses. Let's use the string protocol and action. And I'll just leave this as a blank string for now. Let's hit enter on this action here. And we're just going to call this instance and then call the notification function. So we'll call haptic manager.instance.notification. And when I click the period here, we can see all of our notification types. That's this feedback type that we have up here. And these feedback types are basically just default vibrations that Apple gives us that we can use, and you've probably felt all of these before if you use an iPhone. So I definitely recommend using these if you are creating a vibration for a success or an error. These are just the perfect, easy, simple way to go. And let's start out with the success. And I'm actually just going to make this onto one line just to keep our code a little shorter for now, because that's all of the code. And let's just copy this and paste it 2 more times. The second one, let's make it warning. The third one, we'll do error. Let's just copy this type and just make that the button title as well, just so we can see the difference when we are testing it out. Essentially the same thing. I'll do a button, enter on the action, but this time let's use the impact. Let's do soft first. do light, we'll do medium, we'll do rigid and heavy. Just make these are the button titles as well. And now we have our very simple vibrations, which honestly was just a very few, like 3-4 lines of code. And if we press play, we can click on all of our buttons and the device will actually vibrate. Now, of course, you can't feel the vibrate if we're using the canvas, but if you want to plug your iPhone into your computer, you can then click on the devices in the top left, and there will be a little, your device will pop up here. With your iPhone, you can click that, and then of course make the haptics bootcamp be the first screen in your app, and then you can click that play button and get this to actually build. And if you were to run this on an actual device, when you click these, you would feel all of the different vibrations. Now, I do want to mention here that there are ways to create your own custom vibrations, but I definitely recommend going with these pre-made options because these encompass a pretty wide range of vibrations, and usually using like this success or this error is more than sufficient for what you're looking for. Now you know how to add quick little vibrations to your app. You can use this reusable class across your entire app, which is nice and efficient. And adding a quick little vibration is just a great user experience that you can add with just a few lines of code. Thank you guys for watching. As always, I'm Nick. This is Swiftful Thinking, and I'll see you in the next video. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Nick. This is Swiftful Thinking. And again, just like the last two videos, this video is not technically SwiftUI related, but it is important if you're making a SwiftUI application, and that's why I'm going over it. What we're going to cover is local notifications. Now, it's important for beginners to understand the difference between a real push notification and these local notifications. Now, the main difference here is that these local notifications we can actually set up and create within the application ourselves, while the real push notifications are coming from a server. So just to highlight the difference, an example of a local notification might be a notification that occurs every Monday or every day at 5 p.m. Because when a user opens the application, we have all of that data to know exactly when to send all of those notifications. But if you related, but it is important if you're, and just like the last two videos, this video is, I'm Nick. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Nick. This is Swiftful Thinking. And now the main difference here is that these local notifications we can actually set up and create within the application ourselves, while the real push notifications are coming from a server. So just to highlight the difference, an example of a local notification might be a notification that occurs every Monday or every day at 5 p.m. Because when a user opens the application, we have all of that data to know exactly when to send all of those notifications. But if you want notifications to happen based on other user interactions, so if someone liked your picture or someone commented on your picture, we don't know when a user opens the app when that is going to actually happen. So for those advanced push notifications, we actually need a server, and there's a lot more logic involved, and we're not talking about that right now. We're just going to focus on the local notifications that we can set up ourselves. And these local notifications are actually fairly easy to set up, and there's three main triggers that we can have on these notifications. The first one is time-based, so we could say, notify me 1 hour from now, notify me 2 hours from now. The second one is calendar-based, and using this, we can schedule notifications based on time or date. So for example, we could schedule notifications to happen every day at 5 p.m., or we could schedule it maybe every Monday or Wednesday. We could also schedule it for maybe every first of the month or every fifth of the month, something like that, using the calendar. And the third and least common way is actually by location. And here we can schedule notifications to happen when a user enters or leaves a physical location, when the device actually leaves a location in real life. This would be used more for apps that are based on a physical location, like a coffee shop app, or maybe if there was a destination on your app that you were tracking. It's a little less common, but we'll still go over it. Overall, these local notifications definitely add a really great user experience to your app without all the complexities of the actual push notifications. So if you're a beginner developer, I definitely recommend incorporating these into your app, starting here, and once you're more comfortable with app development, then try to tackle the actual push notifications that are coming from a server. All right, that's enough of me talking. Let's open up Xcode and get coding.
All right, welcome back, everyone. I'm back in Xcode, of course, and we're going to create a new file for this video. Let's right-click on the navigator, create a new file. This one will be a SwiftUI view, and we're going to call this Local Notification Bootcamp. Go ahead and click Create. And as I mentioned, this is not technically a SwiftUI video, but adding local notifications is something you're going to do in SwiftUI apps, so I wanted to quickly cover it. Let's start by setting up our view, and it's going to be really simple. We're just going to add a VStack, open the brackets. Actually, let's give that VStack maybe some spacing of 40. And let's just start with a single button in here. open the parentheses. We're going to use the string protocol, and let's just make the title request permission. Let's click enter on the action, and we'll leave it blank for a second because we don't actually have anything to request yet. And like I've done in the last two videos where we covered sounds and haptics, I'm going to create a singleton to create a class that will manage all of our notification requests. So to do that, let's create a class. Let's call this notification second because we don't actually have anything to request. Model. And because we're binding to the selected model, we no longer need the show sheet booleans at all. And I'm going to delete this little bit of code. The selected model, it's going to provide us with the new model that is just been selected. So that's this model here. And the code, so now using this item completion, can resume my canvas. And you can see how clean and nice and clean and short our code is here. And if I click on button number 2, it should hopefully show us number 2. And that's because anytime you update this parentheses, hopefully show us number 2. And that's because anytime to update this selected model now, so all we need to do is set this selected model to anything, and it's going to present us another screen. And this is actually super handy because it's pretty scalable. So for example, if I added in here a for the selected model. So in this next screen, I'm going to pass in as a variable, we'll say let selected model of type random model, and then the text will actually be the selected model dot title. All right, so this should not be anything new to you guys. We're just creating a very basic screen here. We're just with some text, and the text will be whatever the random model title is. So either and the code in here is just going to be next screen, open the parentheses, and we'll just pass in that model.